Catholic Order of Foresters, dedicated to bringing Catholic values to life since 1883. Catholic Order of Foresters is looking to hire relevant radio listeners as new agents in each of our markets. For more information, call Mark at 855-696-2085.
Talk radio for Catholic life to start your day. It's Morning Air on Relevant Radio. With Glenn Leverance, here's your host, John Harper.
Good morning on Thursday, June 18th, 2015. It's John and Glenn at 5 minutes after the hour, following a number of breaking stories. Of course, Glenn told you about the shooting in the Emmanuel AME Church, an historic black church in Charleston, South Carolina. Bible meeting last night. A white gunman goes in, sits down as a part of the Bible meeting for a short period of time, stands up and opens fire, 9 dead. The suspect at large, ABC News releasing a picture of that suspect. We'll get that up on our Morning Air Facebook page. The other big story here this morning that we'll follow, and we'll follow all through the day with expert analysis rooted in our Catholic faith, of course, is the papal encyclical on the environment. And as Monsignor Stuart Sweatland was saying in the last hour of Morning Air, a responsible simplicity of life. That's an actual quote from the latter pages of 184 pages on this encyclical on the environment from Pope Francis, a responsible simplicity of life. Talk about a credo for life. That's it. Much more on the encyclical through the day as we speak to you now, just after 9 o'clock New York time, live on Morning Air. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is holding a news conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. with Cardinal Donald Wuerl, who is the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Washington, and Archbishop Joseph Kurtz, who was just on our broadcast yesterday, the president of the USCCB and the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Louisville, Kentucky. Quick comment from Cardinal Wuerl.
Every time the Church attempts, a Pope attempts to speak to the current issues, he's making what we would all call a prudential judgment. I mean, the great moral norm, do good, avoid evil, has to be applied to every situation in which we live. And so what the Holy Father is doing is saying, look at these facts, and now let us address these facts in light of the moral principle that should be guiding us. I don't think that because there's a tentative element to the analysis of a scientific fact that it's any less imperative. You know, when a person reaches at the grill to see whether it's hot enough, you say, don't touch that or you'll get burned. The person can reply, is that a definitive faith judgment or a prudential judgment? I'm not going to answer that, but touch the grill and you'll get burned.
Very interesting analogy from Cardinal Wuerl. Archbishop Kurtz following up on that comment.
I think our Holy Father is clearly saying, I'm not coming to you as a scientist or as a politician, but as a voice of faith. But he is calling for a dialogue that is a dialogue that will bring about results, that is not weak. And in fact, if you read the whole document, you know he's not afraid to go back and critique these summits that have come forward on an international level over the last dozen or 24 years. And so while I don't think he's presenting a blueprint to say this is exactly the step-by-step recipe, he is providing a framework and also a true moral call. I think as a moral leader, a moral call to say, take seriously the urgency of this matter.
Archbishop Joseph Kurtz, the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, a guest with us yesterday on Morning Air, and Cardinal Donald Wuerl, and their reaction going on even as we speak now at the National Press Club, the reaction to the papal encyclical on the environment. Much more all through the day. The expert analysis, of course, rooted in our Catholic faith and common sense, coming up here on Relevant Radio. Time now is 10 minutes after the hour. Let's shift to something that may be on the radar in your home, especially if you have teens, and that's getting a summer job. Glenn, when you and I as baby boomers were growing up, we knew where the summer jobs were, right? And, you knew how to go get that. There were a limited number of jobs, but now there seems to be an unlimited number of jobs. The competition for those, a little bit different. Some of those could happen through the internet. Some of those could happen in just the good old-fashioned stuff like bagging groceries, as we all did at some point in time, or being a delivery person. We're going to look at summer jobs right now through the eyes of Dr. Tracy Wilen, who's a prominent thought leader, the impact on technology here on society, on work, on careers. Summer jobs this morning. Dr. Tracy, thank you, and thanks for waiting. We just had to present that audio from the National Press Club. Obviously, so much going on with Papal Encyclical. Good to have you back on.
Oh, thank you, John, and good morning, Glenn.
Well, you know, things are, again, as I said, things are a lot different when you look at all of the opportunities for summer jobs that are available to teens, all the different types, I should say the different types of summer jobs that are available out there, correct?
That's right, and I have come across a new one that is interesting that might be attractive to some of the teens listening or their parents, and it's called crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing has been around since 2008 and has grown over 730%. But now it's actually used as a way to find jobs, you know, in your local area, and that's a new channel for us to find work.
Now, crowdsourcing, obviously not the same thing as crowdfunding, because there are so many of these terms now, it's almost hard to get your arms around what means what.
That's right. So, you know, crowdsourcing is basically engaging people using the Internet. Crowdfunding is an example of it. In fact, I was reading a case where the Catholic Church actually used a crowdfunding site called Indiegogo to help them raise funds to build a church, so that, you know, it's not only the startups anymore. It can be a musician, it can be an artist, you know, trying to tap into the wisdom and the funds of the crowd to help them to do something. But this is now this is, you know, how do I find and match people with skills with job openings, and how can I do that in a local area?
And you've got members of the Fortune 500 in crowdsourcing.
That's right. So let me give you a couple examples. I think everyone knows about Uber and Lyft, and so that's the simplest example, is people who have cars who are willing to share their cars for a price, share their cars with people who need a ride, who maybe don't have a ride, there's not a taxi available, or public transportation. So that's in its simplest form. And actually Uber is now employing over 300,000 drivers somewhere in the world, which is incredible how they tapped into the crowd to do that.
Wow. 300,000?
That's right. It's not all full-time, but it's certainly as part-time opportunities at any given time. And so you can see the power of how they used basically an app and the Internet to find people who were interested in driving and working for money. Another example is Gig Walk, and that's one that some of my colleagues have done, where retailers such as Walmart, BMW, 7-Eleven actually need people to walk the aisles of new stores if there's a store opening or a new product launch, or they want to check brands and pricing and labels. So instead of flying someone in from the headquarters, they can actually post it on an app and have people walk in and take photos and videos of the environment and make money doing that.
Well, Dr. Tracy, isn't it really, too, just a matter of being open to the possibilities, using our social networks as job networks, just getting the word out there, hey, I need help, I'm looking for this or that, and, you know, realizing it's kind of, I think we enjoy hooking up other people, being kind of a matchmaker for jobs or other things. In the last week, I've got to be a matchmaker in terms of lining up people looking to adopt with people who've had experience with that, aspiring authors with established authors, and, you know, people kind of enjoy helping others that way.
Oh, that's right. I mean, it is very similar. The difference is it's formalized now. It's being used as an Internet connection platform. You can download an app. There's different sites that actually specialize in either helping, let's say, if you had data jobs, and, you know, testing to make sure that people have the right criteria. But what I like about it, it's putting jobs into the local area that may have not been available before, because using the Internet, we can find people. And so the example of Gig Walk, I think, is a good one, because instead of flying someone in from Walmart, and they have stores everywhere in the U.S., they actually can tap into the local talent, and you can earn a very good living doing basically market research. It's, you know, it's local. Other companies have used it to find people to distribute surveys. The difference is it's just not the onesie-twosie. It's actually going en masse and finding a lot of people. The other example that I've hearing increasingly about is matching people with skills to demand. So let's say you're a tailor and you have a shop in an area, but you don't have enough work. Well, now some of these sites can give you a pipeline to people who actually need tailoring. It's actually called Tailor.com. And you can actually increase your business by taking on jobs, and people might send you their garments to work on, or different things. So if you have a skill, whether it's you're a welder or you're a plumber, you can increase your workload and your opportunities by tapping into some of these apps and job openings.
Summer Jobs with Dr. Tracy Wilen here at 16 after the hour. I love gig walkers. Well, what can I make walking around in a store?
Well, you can make anywhere, they post from $13 to $15 an hour, and that's what I like about the app. If you go out to the app, you can actually see who's posting the job and what they're offering. So in some cases, it might be very low, and the job might be walking through parking lots to make sure there's enough handicapped spaces there. And maybe that one is not paying as much as a more sophisticated offering from like a BMW to actually go to a car dealership and actually be more of a mystery shopper where you actually go in and engage with and, fill out the form as you go, engage with the whole process of sales. So the retailer really defines what the job is. It's posted. You can look at it on your app and say, yeah, I'd like to do that today. There's one today in my area, and I'd like to sign up for it, and you can see all the different pricing.
These are one-time, one-day events, so I really have to be entrepreneurial in lining up a number of these if I want to make a living or even some reasonable money this summer if I'm a teen.
Sure, and actually, I've been reading some of the blogs about people who do this as more of a career, and they give guidance that you can sign up for multiple. You can look at today and say, okay, here are all the gigs that are available on the apps, and pick a few. You might be a mystery shopper and a gig walker, and you might also want to do some Uber driving. It's certainly an interesting way to get a lot of experience quickly in your time demand, right? So you're defining your hours rather than going into a temp job, right, where they're saying, okay, you're going to be in this office from 9 to 5. And so it's a very different slant on jobs today.
Dr. Tracy, as we talk about summer jobs, now granted a college or high school student will have time to work full-time during the summer, and that would scale back to part-time generally during the school year. But what's the environment for summer-only jobs versus year-round part-time work?
I have looked at all the job reports from ADP and Monster, Career Builder, Snag a Job, and very optimistic for 2015. Career Builder was quoting that because of this on-demand channel now where we can find jobs in flexible workforce, that they're seeing a surge in contract workers in 2015, up almost 42% from 2014. In terms of summer hiring, Snag a Job has posted that this will be a very good summer hiring. It'll be at least the same as last year, if not more, and that the pay has gone up slightly. And a lot of times the pay really demands on supply and demand. Do I have a supply of skilled people for the jobs that I demand? And so, again, it will vary, but both research studies were very optimistic about 2015.
New ways to find summer jobs and part-time work. Dr. Tracy Wilen detailing that for us here at 18 minutes after the hour. I'm curious, is there anybody listening right now who's an Uber driver who has gotten one of these jobs on gigwalk.com? These crowdsourced apps. Do you use the crowdsourcing apps? 877-766-3777. 877-766-3777. If you've used one of the crowdsourcing apps like gigwalk.com, maybe you're an Uber driver, let us know this morning. 877-766-3777 as we talk summer jobs at 19 after on Morning Air on Relevant Radio.
This is Franciscan Media's Saint of the Day for June 18th. Today we celebrate Venerable Matt Talbot. Born in Dublin in 1856, Matt left school early to earn an income. He obtained work as a messenger for some liquor merchants and began himself to drink to excessive. For 15 years, until he was 30 years old, Matt was an active alcoholic. Coming to see that total abstinence was the only solution, Matt decided to make a general confession, attend daily Mass, and take the pledge for 3 months. Avoiding his former drinking places was hard, but he began to pray as intensely as he used to drink. He also tried to pay back people from whom he had borrowed or stolen money in his drinking days. While working as a laborer, Matt joined the secular Franciscan order and began a life of strict penance. He spent hours every night reading scripture and the lives of the saints and praying the rosary. Though his job didn't pay much, he contributed generously to the missions. Finally, his health failed, and Matt was forced to quit work. He died on Trinity Sunday in 1925 on his way to Mass. 50 years later, Pope Paul VI declared him venerable.
There's more about the saints along with the Saint of the Day app at relevantradio.com, keyword saint. Saint of the Day is a production of Franciscan Media.
Hi, Drew Mariani here. Hey, today is a big day. Pope Francis's long-awaited papal encyclical on the environment has finally been released. This after an alleged version of it supposedly was prematurely leaked.
What does it actually say?
And how will it impact this hot and controversial issue? Be sure to join me 3 to 6 Eastern, 2 to 5 Central. I'll break it all down and offer you the best expert analysis.
Best expert analysis.
Be sure to join me for that and more on Relevant Radio.
Good morning. It's 21 after the hour. This is Morning Air on Relevant Radio. John and Glenn, and we're looking at summer jobs. Dr. Tracy Wilen is someone who takes a look at the impact of technology on society, work, and careers, and certainly the technology, the internet. Gigwalk.com, Uber.com, crowdsourcing, all of the different apps out there, different ways to find a summer job, to find a temp job as well, not only in the summer, but really at any time during the year. Now, we focused on teens, Dr. Tracy, but, what about those who may be retired and who are looking for a part-time job in the workforce? Is this something for them as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the Uber example, I can't tell you how many people I've met who are either in job transition, retired, or at-home parents who use Uber and Lyft as ways to fill the day. Some of the other apps out there that I found is that might be interesting to adults and teens is Moby.com, which is mystery shoppers on demand. And I've actually observed a mystery shopper in my local area. We had a new store open with rugs. And we watched a gentleman, you could just tell he was a mystery shopper going through the process. It looked like a lot of fun. I don't think the salesperson was too excited about it, but he's getting paid for that. Another one is courier driver delivery, and there's a lot of those sites, Postmates.com, 11, and that is during high demand where you're shopping, holiday season, where people need packages delivered. So if you have a truck or a delivery vehicle and you're willing to deliver packages for people, you can make money that way. Instacart is out by me in the San Francisco Bay Area, and those if you don't have time to do grocery shopping. And quite frankly, I think that's an excellent service for seniors. A lot of people are homebound, and now there's apps coming out where people can actually do your grocery shopping for you. You can do house cleaning for you, and people can do your laundry for you. And people can be your butler. And I think this just opens up a lot of opportunities for retirement that you don't necessarily have to go to a community. You could actually stay home and have a number of services come to you. So I think that's an interesting twist on it as well.
How many Americans are freelancing now? Do you know the number?
Oh, it's around 53 million according to freelance.com, which is almost like 35% of the population. So it's not a one-off, and I think that's one of the trends that I am seeing consistently is this whole idea of the 9 to 5, going to an office, sitting in a cubicle is starting to be replaced by people saying, I want to define my hours. It's around the family. It's around my interests. And I'm not on call for work anymore. It's important and it's a means for me to be able to have a good life and support my family, but it's not the end anymore. And I think that's a shift that we're seeing as generations progress through the workforce. And so some of these new applications or channels or job opportunities are really creating new ways for people to create their own careers in a different way.
In this presidential election year, Dr. Tracy Wilen, we've heard the candidates, both Republican and Democrat, say that they're going to be the jobs president. And we've heard any number of candidates over the last generation say, I'm going to be the jobs president and these 53 million freelancing jobs and these jobs that we see on crowdsourcing apps don't necessarily show up in the employment figures with a changing way that we get employed here in the United States. How should these candidates talk about being the jobs president in a changing environment?
Well, it's always interesting that, that presidents create jobs. It's really the companies that create jobs and individuals who create jobs. And so I think the support has to be for job growth. These are just examples of people starting businesses. I mean, there's a person behind all of these applications. There's a person behind there's millennials behind Uber and some of these new opportunities that people are tapping into for work. On a separate note, I think it is time, for the government to catch up with society and technology. We need to stop classifying jobs in an old way, and start looking at what's really happening in the workforce, where are people really getting their jobs and making contributions. And I think the government has always been a little behind in that area. So it would be interesting to see. I can't imagine a government creating jobs. I think Obama tried perhaps with the shovel-ready program, but other than that, it's all about people and companies.
Well, we see Uber.com and all of the other ones that you were mentioning here, and 53 million Americans freelancing. Dr. Tracy, does this signify a strengthening economy or one that's stagnant because we have to make our own work and we're trying to freelance and piece a bunch of stuff together to make a living?
I think it's just a different way that people are becoming employed. Again, I don't think the de facto solution to jobs is that the person who works 9 to 5 is a better worker than someone who has really been much more entrepreneurial in their approach to jobs. I think that's the difference, is there are generations that believe that employment is the full-time in an office. And the reality of today is that that's not the desire of many people anymore. There are people who create every day and make money. And with the Internet, we've opened up new channels for people to continue to create and to continue to make money.
We've got about 90 seconds left. When you look at some of these, Dr. Tracy, you must be, as a lot of us do, saying, that's so basic. Why didn't I think of that? Of course.
Right. Yeah. So, sometimes it takes our younger generations to simplify life for us. Our older generations, we've created a lot of obstacles and processes, and we don't look at it as something that can be undone. When I look at how Uber just undid transportation problems by putting together GPS, internet, supply, demand, and people with cars, you'd say, why didn't I think of it? Well, now what's happening is people are unbundling a lot of the complexity that previous generations have created because there wasn't technology available, so it's not a bad thing. But we're now being able to say, well, why can't we aggregate tailors or plumbers or house cleaners or shoppers to do things? Why do we still do things in the old-fashioned way now that the Internet has opened up the doors?
And they've done that on house cleaning. It's handy.com. Quick pop quiz, Glenn, with a few seconds remaining. Washio.com, WASHIO.com. What do you think that is?
They come and do your laundry?
You got it. Absolutely. Alfred.com. Alfred.com. This is a little more challenging. This is double
Butler on the go.
You're right. It is Butler on the go. There you go. Again, why did
I watch Batman?
There you go. Yeah. Tracy Wilen has thought about it. That's why you need her book, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. Dr. Tracy Wilen talks to us about careers and trends here in the United States. She works with some of the great Fortune 500 companies, and we are fortunate to have her as well here on Morning Air. Thank you, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you.
I love, again, why do we, Instacart.com, someone doing your grocery shopping. Postmates.com, somebody who could deliver stuff to you. Amazing. Just when you stop to think of how you can use the gifts of the Holy Spirit to create brand new business. 29 after Morning Air on Relevant Radio.
CatholicMatch.com continues to help Catholic singles of all ages and locations be fully prepared for the vocation of marriage.
One of the best things that I really liked about CatholicMatch.com is that you filled out a survey that you had to answer questions, what I believe about the Catholic faith. And also there's a personality test. And I could see Henry's personality test, and exactly, we're total opposites of one another, but we have so much in common.
We pray together and we talk everything out. That's what we learn from the folks at Catholic Match.
The tools online at CatholicMatch.com are designed to focus your dating with the purpose of marriage.
We were on the phone with each other 1.5 to 2 hours every evening.
Catholic Match wants you to meet the spouse God has planned for you.
Henry has fulfilled all of my wishes.
I want to thank Catholic Match.
Visit CatholicMatch.com/Drew for a special relevant radio offer.
If you have a conflict in your marriage about money,
the teenage years, we need a lot of help today.
Looking for solid Catholic answers to your daily challenges? On Call with Wendy Weiss.
Mommy anxiety, retirement, addiction, caregiving, cutting down on the chaos in your house.
On Call.
You are welcomed into this conversation.
Face life's challenges with a team of experts on your side.
And above all, our beautiful Catholic faith.
On Call with Wendy Weiss. 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central on Relevant Radio.
Guide us on how we start that dialogue, announcing Jesus without being called intolerant on this redefinition of marriage, which will redefine families forever.
Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey, Arthur Saratelli.
We are going to be called intolerant. They're accused us of hate speech, and we just have to get ready for that. Ever since December, Pope Francis in his Wednesday audiences has been given a great catechesis on the beauty of marriage, on the place of children, on the place of parenting. There's a mine of information there that we can draw from. A very strong sense of individualism that's part of our national heritage from the beginning has now led us to a full sense of tolerance, where whatever an individual says, we have to be tolerant of. And I think we are tolerant and compassionate and kind people, whoever they are, wherever they are in their life. At the same time, we still do not shrink from announcing or explaining or proposing what God's plan is for His creation.
The redefinition of marriage. We'll be talking about it here.
Relevant Radio.
Father Capodanno was a Marine chaplain in the Vietnam War. His Marines loved him because he always put his life second to their needs. A battle broke out where 500 Marines were surrounded by 2,500 North Vietnamese army. One man was about to be killed when Capodanno picked him up, threw him through the air into a ditch, and saved his life. Another man was hit with shrapnel. When Capodanno got up to him, a bubble of peace descended. All he heard was the chaplain's voice. God is with us. Someone will get you out. Father Capodanno didn't make it out that day. He was running to minister to a medic and was shot 27 times in the back. He got the Medal of Honor. The USS Capodanno was named after him. He's been declared Servant of God by the Catholic Church. His name is in the Vietnam War Memorial, and the only way to see it is to kneel. The way he died is how we're supposed to live. This is Chris Stefanik. For more, visit relevantradio.com, keyword Real Life Catholic.
Hi, Drew Mariani here. Hey, today is a big day. Pope Francis's long-awaited papal encyclical on the environment has finally been released. This after an alleged version of it supposedly was prematurely leaked.
What does it actually say?
And how will it impact this hot and controversial issue? Be sure to join me 3 to 6 Eastern, 2 to 5 Central. I'll break it all down and offer you the best expert analysis.
Best expert analysis.
Be sure to join me for that and more on Relevant Radio.
Good morning. It's 26 minutes before the hour. Morning air on Relevant Radio. John Harper and Glenn Leverins. Coming up more on the papal encyclical on the environment. You'll hear from some of those who have read the papal encyclical and their reaction from Catholic Relief Services and other agencies coming up before the top of the hour. On this Thursday, June 18th, this is the Thursday before Father's Day. You know what a joy it is to be a father, what a challenge it is to be a father. Well, imagine being the father of a child with special needs. Randy Hain is the dad of a child with special needs, and he's written a great book called Special Children, Blessed Fathers. Randy, good morning. Welcome to Morning Air. Good to have you back on.
Thanks a lot. Good morning.
And you've written this with a number of names that we have had here on Morning Air, including Greg Willits and so many others. Tell us a little bit about being a dad of a special needs child. How has that made you a better father?
Well, I think fatherhood in general, as you and I have discussed on this show before, is under assault. And it's difficult to be a father today, especially a Catholic father. Well, then add the challenges of raising a child or children with special needs. The financial pressures, the emotional pressures, the demands are incredible. And I really, as one of those fathers, I have a son with autism, I definitely recognize that not only myself, but other men are really having a hard time out there. So the book was really written to encourage and inspire them and give them lots of practical ways to more fully engage with their families and be present for what is probably the most important role of a lifetime. So I feel like I've been battle tested, and my son is a blessing in our lives, and I feel like our life is richer because of him, and I'm a better father because of my son, and he's helped me get there. So my story may be different from others, but for me, it's been a blessing to have a child with autism, and I encourage anybody to look at their families and really ask themselves why they're there. I mean, our vocation is to get our children to heaven, and that's what my wife and I, that's how we look at it. So.
Randy Hain, our guest here, talking about Special Children, Blessed Fathers, which is the name of Randy's latest book. Perhaps you're the parent of a special needs child. 877-766-3777 to join the conversation. What were some of the biggest challenges with your son who's got autism?
I was talking to someone the other day about this, and they asked me the same question, and it's interesting that when I got the diagnosis with my wife for Alex, he was 27 months old. And the first thing I felt was the dreams that I had for him. He's my firstborn. My dreams for him were just dashed, that he wasn't going to be the athlete. He wasn't going to be all these different things that I had sort of superimposed upon my child for his life. And I had to go through kind of the recalibration of those dreams. There's probably a little bit of guilt, maybe pride that was in there. It was a complicated soup of issues. But as he's gotten older, my wife and I both have recognized that our son has challenges, but he has a wonderful life before him. And we have to believe in that life and believe in God's power to help him be as successful as possible. So it's just a different life than what we envision. But I think initially it was just all fathers, if they're honest, will admit they want their sons to have sports glory and marry the homecoming queen and have a great family and a great life. Well, Alex will just have a different life, and that's okay.
Earlier this morning, Randy, we were talking with Marge Fenelon, who's one of our contributors and a columnist, and she was talking about the grieving process. And in the grieving process, very often we're angry at God. Did you and your wife ever get angry at God over Alex?
No. When we got the diagnosis, my wife and I really didn't have any faith. That was a period of our lives where we were just in the spiritual wilderness, as I call it. But ironically, it was Alex's diagnosis that really broke that barrier around my heart, and that became the catalyst for what became a pretty profound conversion to Christ that I had several years later, and came into the church with my wife and my other son. So actually, paradoxically, there was never anger, but it was a wake-up call. It became the blessing of the Catholic faith, and it started with my son's diagnosis. So my story is actually the opposite of what you just said. It was actually an incredible blessing that turned out to be an even bigger one. So I do understand what you're asking, and I do see it. But for us, I think that, God worked through our son, and the result is a wonderful journey in the Catholic Church.
Talk about finding a blessing in that situation, Randy. What have you learned about maybe peace and patience from dealing with your son?
Well, there's a chapter in the book titled Acceptance, and it was about a really interesting conversation we had with one of our parish priests after Mass one day. And we asked Father to pray for Alex and pray for his healing. And we always pray that one day Alex would be healed. And he looked at us quizzically, and he said, if you don't mind, I'd like to offer a suggestion. And we said, sure, Father, anything. And he said, I think you're praying for the wrong thing. I encourage you to pray for acceptance. And he said, I know you love your son more than anyone. There's no way you could love him anymore. But instead of asking God to remake this great gift he's given you, pray that you can accept the gift as God has given it to you. And it was an incredibly profound conversation that spilled over into so many areas of our lives. So to answer your question, instead of worrying about a business meeting or a difficult conversation or worrying about all the things that maybe parents typically worry about, my wife and I really try to practice acceptance. We pray for acceptance of what God has put before us. We pray that we'll learn from it. We pray that we'll be guided through it. But we don't pray for him to take it away from us. We simply pray that we'll be, that he'll help us through it. That was the lesson, I think, that we got from that conversation about our son. So I do feel a sense of peace, and I do feel a calmness about, the life that we have with our son. And I think that he's helped us have a different perspective, especially since that conversation with one of our priests.
20 minutes before the hour with Randy Hain, our guest today. The book is Special Children, Blessed Fathers, Encouragement for Fathers of Children with Special Needs. Archbishop Chaput from Philadelphia wrote the foreword to this book, and perhaps you're the parent of a special needs child, and we can share your experiences with Randy this morning at 877-766-3777. And Randy, we're starting in Chicago with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, good morning. Welcome to Morning Air.
Hi. Thank you for talking about this topic, because a lot of people don't. So we have 5 children, and 2 of our 5 children have special needs. Our baby, our 5th child, it was determined right in the delivery room. It was something I can still remember almost to every second, and she's now 10 years old. And then we have another child who has intractable epilepsy. I guess I should say our daughter, who is 10, has a very rare genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome, which is something that somebody really doesn't want to talk about too much because it's so shocking. We have to lock up all of our cabinets, our refrigerator, because she will literally eat herself to death. She will perforate her stomach and then become septic and pass away. So that is a very stressful situation because we have other children who leave things out and forget to put the keys away. So that's very unpredictable. She's got some behavior issues. And then our son, who has epilepsy that is considered resistant to medication, he has a genetic disorder also that is causing that. So his seizures are unpredictable. But I guess what we've learned as a family is that we have to just slow down because there's no other way of dealing with all these things. He may have a seizure on Easter morning, so everything gets changed. That's the other thing. We can't live by a certain schedule. Like all of us like to tick things off from our schedule, from our to-do list, and you never know if things are going to pan out the way you planned your day. But I think we all need to slow down, and it's been a gift having both of them. And we just try our best to make the best of every day. And our other children, our typical children, they get pretty frustrated and feel like they're not getting as much time with us. But we've tried to work through some of those issues, and they do help out with the younger kids. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
It's wonderful, and we will keep you in prayer because, you're describing situations that families with typical children may not experience, and the physical, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual challenges can be overwhelming. So God bless you for hanging in there, you and your husband, and you'll be in our prayers.
Elizabeth, thank you for that. Randy, Elizabeth raises an interesting point about the other children. 2 have special needs. The other 3 are not special needs children. Alex's younger brother, Ryan, how did he deal with Alex's disability, with Alex's autism? And how did you explain that to him?
Really from the beginning, Ryan has had to recognize, I think around 5 or 6, I think he started to recognize that even though he was 3.5 years younger than his brother, in many ways Ryan has had to be the older brother. So, Alex in almost every situation emulates his younger brother and follows him. So it's thrust Ryan into that sibling leadership role that has been unusual, but he's risen to the challenge. I think it's also helped Ryan have a very deep sense of empathy for the underdog, for people that have a challenge, because he experiences it at home. Now, listen, they fight like brothers, and they do their typical brother stuff, but I think it's helped Ryan grow a compassionate heart. And I've had that experience in conversations with siblings of special needs children in research for the book. In fact, I interviewed one for the book. And I think that hearts are changed in a very powerful way in these families. You may not see it when they're young because they're too immature, but as they get older, they look back and they'll remember, what, I dealt with that every day. And, it was, I love my sibling, and I love my family dynamic. I may not have appreciated it at the time, but as they get older, I found that through my conversations that they appreciated it and they had a deeper sense of empathy for others. That's been my experience.
Speaking of appreciation, did you appreciate how having a child with special needs strengthened your marriage?
That's a good question, and I would tell you that is not the intuitive reaction that many would have. Many would say that it puts enormous strain on the marriage. And at times, I will tell you, it takes all that my wife and I have working together to get through a day. And our son doesn't have a lot of behavioral issues, really doesn't have any, but the way that his autism manifests itself is he will ask literally hundreds of questions in a day, and he gets fixated on certain things, and it can wear you out. So my wife and I have learned in partnership to spell each other, to help each other, to, not let just one of us be the only one who's, dealing with that. So we've learned how to help each other, and I think it's brought us closer together because truly as a team, we have a successful, loving family. But if it was just my wife or just me, it would be incredibly difficult. So my hearts go out to those families where one of the parents is absent or just not engaged. Again, another reason why I wrote the book was to encourage the fathers to engage. But listen, the marriage, as Kevin Lowry in the book said very well, the marriage has to be a primary important factor in these families, and you've got to take care of that, or ultimately the children will suffer, and I totally agree with that.
Randy, explain the balancing act, and I speak from experience. Earlier this morning I was talking about how I was as an adult, not a child anymore, the primary caregiver for my aunt who did have special needs. And there was always that balancing, where, yes, it's a different life, but it's a beautiful life at the same time. And, her life was integrated into everybody's life. And that's a very important message to get across, especially if you have a child with special needs.
I agree. I think balance is an interesting word. My wife and I don't socialize a lot. We're kind of quiet people anyway, but early on in Alex's life, we just got tired of answering questions about what's up with Alex, what's wrong with Alex, what's going on with him. And we sort of retreated a little bit from maybe a lot of socialization with other families. But the other side of that is we became a very tight-knit family. So we do everything together. It's very unusual for us to not all have our meal together 7 nights a week. So we really worked on our family time, and that's been, one of the sort of the benefits of this. So the balancing act can be difficult, and again, your life will not always look like the other families' lives on your street, your neighborhood, your parish, but you've got to do the best you can, and you've got to maybe set priorities. So us being, the popular family on the street is not as important as us investing time with our children, our family, and making sure that dynamic is strong. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but it is a difficult one for families, and they just have to set the priorities and really think about what's important.
If you have a child with special needs, you'll want Randy Haynes' book, Special Children, Blessed Fathers. We'll put the link on our Morning Air Facebook page. Kevin is joining our conversation this morning at 12 before the hour at 877-766-3777. Kevin in Austin, Texas, listening to Relevant Radio 970. Good morning, Kevin. You're on with Randy Haynes.
Good morning. The comment I wanted to make was when I was kind of grappling with acceptance of my daughter. I have a daughter, name is Mary. We named her Mary Elizabeth Grace. We wanted to get all the Catholic firepower that we could as far as working with her. And I was told that I could become bitter or better. and it was a choice. I chose to become a better person because of it. But also, you were talking about the inclusion, how it's made my older daughter a better person. And also, when she's included more into society, it makes society more compassionate society, I think. So,
yeah, Kevin, I think that's spot on. I think that when we stop looking at our children, I love the comment, bitter or better. If we stop looking at our children as a burden or a source of bitterness and simply say, God, thank you for this gift. Thank you for choosing me to be my daughter's father, my son's father, and then start to see our children as a light, because I think that these children are incredible and innocent, as all children are, but especially special needs children. And to your point, Kevin, the world will be better, your family will be better, you'll be better. So I think that's an incredibly important illustration, so thank you for making that.
Randy, as, say, adult friends of parents of special needs kids, or maybe there's someone at church we know of that situation, how can we be a good help?
I think really doing your best to educate yourself on the various forms of special needs. I mean, anything from Down syndrome to heterodoxy to autism, Asperger's, ADHD, you name it. Doing a little better job of either informing yourself or asking compassionate questions. Don't assume that all these children have behavioral issues. Don't assume that they all are going to do crazy things or maybe be violent. That's one of my pet peeves, is there's an assumption that children with special needs have violent fits. That's just not the case. So I think going out of your way to educate yourself, ask compassionate questions, but also don't treat the family like a pariah. There's a tendency, and I've seen it many times, where you have a child with special needs, and it's almost like, well, you just kind of stay over there and do your thing. There's not a strong desire to include those families, because there's, again, assumptions that it won't work out. In our parish, we have seen such a loving, compassionate embrace of Alex for the 10 years that we've been parishioners there. In fact, and I tell the story in the book, but he's become a lector at St. Peter Chanel, a lector, does the first reading. He's done it 8 times now. And it's an amazing experience to see the parishioners come up and hug him. And Alex doesn't know these people, but they get so inspired by seeing him there. So the love that our parish has expressed to our son has opened up, a lot of doors for him. He's volunteering for things now, and he's wanting to be more involved. But that is the right way to do it, and I write about it in the book, that was the best of Catholicism, to see our parish embrace our son. So I think that love and compassion and great listening would be the 3 things I would ask anyone listening to do if you know a family like this, and just try to help them and embrace them. Don't pity them, but embrace them, love them, and just see what you can do to help, but educate yourself. That would be really important.
I'm tearing up again hearing that story about Alex. Wow. Special Children, Blessed Fathers, Randy Haynes' book, the link on our Morning Air Facebook page. Randy, thank you so much. All the best to you and the family. Thanks for your time again on Morning Air.
All right. Thanks, John. God bless.
Wow. Special Children, Blessed Fathers. This is a great book. You're going to love this. Special Children, Blessed Fathers. The link on our Morning Air Facebook page, now 8 before the hour. Inside, the papal encyclical on the environment, the reaction, coming up next on Morning Air on Relevant Radio.
As declared by Pope Francis, this is the year of consecrated life. What priest, sister, or brother has had an impact on your life?
I've been a Catholic for 4 years. I married a Catholic, but told him that I would never become a Catholic. So I started going to his church, and the priest was so nice. His name is J.C. Kane, and he knew I was not Catholic. And I would take a book and write all the things I thought were wrong. So one day he told me, if you keep coming to church just to criticize and to write in your little book, I think it's better for you not to come back, because I'm concerned about your spiritual growth. That's what turned my life around, to seek what the Catholic Church was about. So sometimes we don't like to hear things, but that's what turned everything around.
Celebrating the year of consecrated life. This is Relevant Radio.
Monsignor Stuart Swetland. Here I'm quoting Pope Francis. I wonder, for example, if so-called gender theory is not an expression of frustration and resignation that aims to cancel out sexual difference, as it is no longer able to face it. Yes, we run the risk of taking a step backwards. Indeed, the removal of difference is the problem, not the solution. Men and women must instead speak more, listen more, know each other better, value each other more. They must treat each other with respect and cooperation in friendship. Supported by God's grace, it is possible to plan a lifelong matrimonial and family union. The marriage and family bond is a serious matter for all, not only for believers. I would like to encourage intellectuals not to ignore this theme as if it were secondary to our efforts to promote a freer and more just society. Pope Francis.
This is Relevant Radio.
Before the hour, this is Morning Air on Relevant Radio. The papal encyclical on the environment is out. Expert analysis rooted in our Catholic faith all through the day on Morning Air on Relevant Radio. And, of course, all of our broadcasts today, including Go Ask Your Father with Monsignor Stuart Swetland, who gave us his expert analysis earlier on, having us focus on the responsible simplicity of life, the responsible simplicity of life, a very important theme, among others, in the papal encyclical on the environment. Just moments ago, Archbishop Joseph Kurtz, the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, a guest here on Morning Air yesterday, and his reaction to the papal encyclical.
I think our Holy Father is clearly saying, I'm not coming to you as a scientist or as a politician, but as a voice of faith. But he is calling for a dialogue that is a dialogue that will bring about results, that is not weak. And in fact, if you read the whole document, you know he's not afraid to go back and critique these summits that have come forward on an international level over the last dozen or 24 years. And so while I don't think he's presenting a blueprint to say this is exactly the step-by-step recipe, he is providing a framework and also a true moral call. I think as a moral leader, a moral call to say, take seriously the urgency of this matter.
Archbishop Joseph Kurtz, the president of the USCCB. Much more on the encyclical through the day here on Relevant Radio. And Glenn, we end with some fun and some pizza this morning. Remember the bet that Archbishop Supich made with the bishop in Tampa, St. Pete? Citrus if the Tampa Bay Rays won the Stanley Cup. Lou Malnati pizzas if the Chicago...
Oh, Lou's is great.
Oh, Lou's fantastic. Well, yesterday there's Archbishop Supich with Lou's son Mark out there with pizzas, 300 pizzas.
It really is a wonderful opportunity. As I said earlier, I made the bet with Bishop Lynch down in Tampa, St. Pete, as a way to draw attention, particularly not only to the great event of the Stanley Cup, but to the work that Catholic Charities does in our two dioceses. And then I had the happy surprise of Mark stepping forward and not only offering to give the pizza to the people here, covering my bet if there was any slight possibility that we would lose. But he's gone ahead and said, even in the victory, he wants to celebrate he wants people down in Florida to celebrate with us. So he'll be providing the pizza down there as well as our own Catholic Charities here at St. Leo's.
Isn't that great? So that's 300 pizzas not only for the diocese, for Catholic Charities down in Tampa, St. Pete, but also, that's 300, there's a lot of pizzas for Catholic Charities in Chicago. Archbishop Supich talking about Catholic Charities in Chicago and how the need is there almost constantly for their work.
Catholic Charities has someone come to them for assistance every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day. And that shows you the volume of the need out there, but also the footprint that Catholic Charities has in this state. That's why it's important to recognize and to be supportive of a fine organization that takes care of homeless people, veterans, feeds the poor, helps those who need counseling, drug rehabilitation, ways in which, too, that folks who are looking for ways of upgrading their employment, get proper counseling.
And that's the work of Catholic Charities in Chicago, and they'll be the recipient of 300 pizzas as well, in addition to Catholic Charities down in the Tampa Bay area. Minute before the hour now, Morning Air on Relevant Radio.
Thanks for listening to this hour of Morning Air on listener-supported Relevant Radio. For information on guests and topics, go to relevantradio.com and enter keyword morning air. That's relevantradio.com, keyword morning air.